Hey everyone, and welcome to the Blak Mild podcast. I'm your host Reginald. Joining me today is Kevin. So Kevin, really appreciate you joining me.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So a few quick things. Just going to give you the brief intro for those of you who may not have seen this before, or especially for those of you who may not even know what objective personality is or typology. I know I have some friends that I've shared this with that have no idea. I'll just kind of give you the rundown. So basically, the goal of this podcast for me is to have just really enjoyable conversations. That's kind of the mission statement. I just want it to be a really good time. Now, with that being said, everyone that I have had as guests so far have come from the objective personality community on the Facebook and the Discord. Objective personality is, if you haven't heard of typology before, MBTI, like this is like personality type stuff. Some people know about zodiac, but typology, they try and understand like how people operate. And so what objective personality does is they're attempting to make the Myers-Briggs typology indicator more scientifically valid or significant. They do that by doing a double-blind experiment where they put two people or two operators in separate rooms. They give them the same person to type, and their goal is to come up with the same type out of 512, over, higher than chance, right? Higher than flipping a coin. And so once they do that, their goal is once they have that statistically significant result, they're going to kind of pass along to the scientific community and then start branching out into AI, genetics, and try and figure out, actually explain what's going on from a practical perspective. Now, there's going to be a lot of terminology in here. If you guys don't know what objective personality is, there may be some stuff you're like, well, what do you mean by that? So what I've actually done is I've included in the description both a link to their beginner series where you can kind of get an understanding of their terms. And then I also put a link into a personal playlist I've created for you guys where you can kind of watch like 5-10 minute videos where, the creators of this program really kind of explain the terms to you. Okay. So that's going to be it. So, and then also, of course, if you have any questions, we do have a live chat. Special shout out to the 9 show. I'm assuming this is Leon here.
What's up, Leon?
If you have questions that way, feel free to kind of come in, ask us, and we'll see if we can get to it. If not, either leave a comment and I'll try and respond to that, or someone will. Or what I would also recommend is kind of going through those resources that I shared. Okay. So without further ado, one last thing. With the live chat, one thing I will clarify is my goal, since my goal is kind of just enjoy Kevin's company here, I may not, even see the live chat because I kind of get in the zone. But, that's where the comments on the YouTube are for. Okay. So without further ado, Kevin, again, welcome. Really appreciate you here, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Nice. So let's start with kind of the basic first impressions. I know I have a habit of fighting everybody I meet in the OP community, but I'm curious to see what your take was. What's your remembrance of how we met? What was your first impression and all that?
I think I remember seeing some of your posts and comments on the Facebook first. I didn't have much, just another person in the group. And then I think I first saw you more, interacted with you in the Discord, and some of the voice chat, sessions in there and stuff. And I just was surprised that you seemed very matter of fact, I guess. It seemed to ruffle feathers a little bit with people in there. So I was a little intimidated, I think, at first. Just like, and it seemed like you didn't really notice me, which I thought maybe meant you didn't like me or something. I think I even said that to you once. I thought you didn't like me, and you said I didn't even notice you or something like that. I don't remember exactly. Yeah, I just remember being a little bit intimidated at first, I guess.
Yeah.
People seemed a little like, don't mess with Reggie. He's a little, he could go off at any moment. So
yeah. So. I would say I'm sorry, but I'm not. But what I do remember is I remember, because we've had conversations about this, there was an iconic moment in the Discord where I made myself very infamous, where literally, it was basically like almost as if in Discord, guys, there's a voice chat where it's like you can have multiple people mute, unmute, and things like that. So there was a point in time where there were people asking me what my first impressions of them were and if I liked them or not. And so it was almost like I was going in line saying, oh yeah, I like this, and yeah, you were annoying, and this and that. Now, if I remember correctly, I got to you, Kevin, and I was like, oh yeah, Kevin, you're a cool dude, and I left it at that because that was my first impression. It was very much like, okay, he's you were very quiet on the Discord, very it's not like you weren't engaged, but it seemed like you were kind of there either just to pass the time or just to observe. So that's for me. I was like, okay, yeah, he's a cool dude. Like, I don't see why not. I think it wasn't until we met in person that my impression really kind of to solidify. Said, oh, okay, might be what's going on. So I'm curious to see how when we met in person, like, what was your kind of? Did you have the same impression? Did it update or?
Yeah, I don't know. You called me on stuff on me, like messing up the vibe or something, which like I jumped right into the conversation about ops and stuff, OPS.
Yeah. Like,
and,
let's be clear.
No niceties. No.
Let's be sensory clear. It's like I pull up at this bagel shop with where we're supposed to meet, and literally the moment I sat down and said hi to him, he's like, "Hey man, so I've been really like looking into OP and I've been like working on the disc." I'm like, there was like no highs, no like, how are you? How's it?
I actually value that honesty a lot because that's like a blind spot for me. I don't see that, and that was actually really helpful for me. So I'm glad. I like that about you, that you can just like see that something's off here and just call it as it is, and that's cool. I definitely value that a lot. So my first impression was I like this guy because he's seeing things about me that I can't see, and he's calling me on it, and it's helpful. It's good. It's good information for me to have. So even though maybe there's a little ego hit, maybe I'll be honest. Yeah. Sometimes I'm checking that. I'm like, okay, that is hitting me here, but that's a good thing because I need to be challenged like that. If you're never challenged, you can't grow, and I value that. So that's why I'm in this, to grow, and I see you as someone who does that, helps me with that. So
yeah, I appreciate
that's
that.
Great.
I appreciate that. I do a lot of ego hits, like almost by accident sometimes. So I'm sorry. Now, so that first conversation was really cool. We went through a lot of kind of topics there, but for the purpose of this conversation, where I kind of want to go is, I mean, a lot of it was OP focused. I mean, we did get into like some personal stuff. I brought out the Jordan Peterson. I gave you the blaster lesson on Jordan Peterson, of course, but
that was great.
Yeah, fun times. But I do think from an OP perspective, I mean, one of the biggest things where I think it was like the first 20 minutes of that conversation, we were basically doing nothing but comparing and contrasting. Mm-hmm. So what I'd like to do is, first I do definitely want to kind of jump in. This is probably going to be very OP centered conversation. I do kind of want to jump in, see how you've been processing your type, what your type is, how you experience it. I do want to do like a revisited compare and contrast. And then like kind of share, you as a person, like what your life's been like and maybe how OP's helped or not. So yes. And then Anna, by the way, I do see your comment. So one of the things she wants us to flesh out at one point is the difference between the masculine FI and the masculine TI. So I think we should probably get to that once we get to the contrast, but Anna, I definitely do see that. So Kevin, starting off, how would you say you experience your type from a savior and demon standpoint, as well as what have you been kind of questioning about your type? Because I know that's something that's been going on.
Okay. Well, gosh, this is tough. The savior side of it. Well, I guess I should say I had my type wrong when I was trying to figure out what I thought my type was. Because I think a big part of that is some stuff I don't know if we're going to get into or not, but like the social anxiety side of it, at least I'll mention here. I have had social anxiety as far back as I can remember. It became a big thing in high school, start of high school. And so I've always seen myself as very shy and introverted. And then they give me this type that's like the second most extroverted animal stack. So I'm masculine, feminine, introverted intuition and extroverted feeling are the savior functions. And then last, play, consume, sleep. So that's like very extroverted. And I thought I was maybe blast third and maybe play last. I didn't even see blast and play hardly because I'm in my head most of the time. I don't really engage with people very much. So that was kind of a shock. So I had to like process how I could actually be this extroverted. And I just came to understand that I'm doing a lot of blasting in my head. I'm not, like, I internalized my extroversion from having social anxiety so young. It's like I'm not going to extrovert because if I extrovert, I'm vulnerable. I'm letting people know the real me and they can hurt me. So if I don't extrovert, they can't really know me and then they can't really hurt me. So if I keep people out, I'm safe.
Yeah.
So I guess I am now, I've been processing this for 8 months or so now. I'm seeing that I do have blast. That's pretty obvious to me. I can teach my known information. I can push myself to go on projects and things that I need to do that I've decided I'm going to do this thing. I just push myself and I do it. The play, I mean, I guess if it's in areas that I'm interested in, I'm seeing that I do like to interact with people. Like this discussion we're having. I've had some other discussions. I have a YouTube channel and I get some people together and we talk about a topic or whatever. And I get on that Discord and try to interact some with people there. So I do push myself to do that. I'm trying to get over the social anxiety. So I'm seeing that my mind is putting up roadblocks to extrovert and I'm seeing them and I'm like, this is the thing I'm trying to get over. So I'm just going to push through this. So I'm using a lot of the stuff, about my type and mindfulness meditation that I've done to see my thoughts. And those are the thoughts I'm trying to overcome. So the saviors would be the, intuition and the extroverted feeling, introverted intuition. So I'm seeing that in just the blast and planning for the future. I see that I'm trying to narrow down and, avoid chaos. The FE is difficult because I have something called alexithymia, which I think we're going to get into later probably, but I'm blind to my own emotions. And I think with extroverted feeling, a lot of people are using that as a way to connect with people, to, feel what other people are feeling. And I struggle with that because I don't know what that, I'm just really weird around emotions with other people and myself. I don't see them in me at all. I know they're there. It's kind of like this black hole where I can see the evidence that there's something going on, like the chemicals and the bodily sensations, my thoughts or whatever, but I just don't see emotions. So the FE is a weird function for me because it's like I'm just feeling chemicals, physically, and I don't know what to do. I can kind of guess what people's emotions are. I can spot what people are valuing. I see that, but I'm not like taking their values. Like a lot of the anecdotes and stuff are, you get your values from the tribe. That seems to ignore the fact that I'm double deciding. I have a TI. I see what people are valuing. Then I check my TI. It's like, do I have reasons to actually value these same things? If I don't, then I don't value those things. So I guess the demon part of this, I'm supposed to have demon sleep. I'm kind of questioning what sleep was initially. I thought I was sleep first. Then I realized, wait, I don't really understand sleep that well. And then I thought I was starting to understand it the other day. And I think I am understanding a sliver of it. And then I just realized there's a whole another side to it that I think I'm actually doing all the time. So I'm not sure I'm actually sleep last. I'm still thinking about that. I don't know. Right. The consume, I feel like I'm consuming all the time. So that's a hard one to deal with there. But so I'm just putting effort into all of these things and trying to see where I'm freaking out, the different functions. And, working on the social anxiety side of it, working on these freakouts that I'm having, that I spot and pushing through them and pushing myself to extrovert. So I guess that's the bulk of it. Yeah.
High level overview. Good. So the first question I have is one that was brought to my attention while doing the interview with Jono. Special shout out to Jono if you're watching this. Do you experience at least the demons that you agree with? Do you experience your demons as either scary or morally wrong in some way, whether in yourself or in other people?
No, I don't even know what that would. I'm trying to imagine thinking that and like what that would be like.
Yeah.
Morally wrong or scary? No. I mean, because if consume and sleep are my demons, I can't. I mean, those are good. I'm seeing them now as good things and things that I see value in, and I'm not scared of them, and I don't see other people doing them, and that's a bad thing or anything like that.
Right.
The functions, TI and SE. I see that I don't want to do the SE. I want to dip in and get out. Mm-hmm. It's definitely my biggest demon. The TI is great. I feel like I'm double deciding all the time. I'm NT puzzling for my job as a computer programmer. I'm in my head. I'm banging on the patterns that I'm coming up with. Logic, banging on it. So I don't see doing TI as a bad thing. I value it. So no, I think all of these things, all of these parts are important parts of us that we need to get a handle on and put time in and get them all balanced. And that's the thing. Whatever my type is, maybe it's right, maybe it's off a little bit. I just need them all balanced, and I'm putting in the effort where I'm seeing that there's a need.
Right.
And I'm constantly trying to be aware, and hopefully I have people who can call me on shit. But I want to see those places. And as I'm working on these freakouts, I'm seeing that they're getting, like, instead of this big amplitude, it's now a little thing. And I'm like, oh, this is working. I'm putting effort. I'm seeing it. I'm, trying to short circuit those. So that's why we're in this stuff, is to work on ourselves. If you're just here to play and it's like a horoscope, I mean, that's bullshit. I want to figure out where I'm messing up and work on it and put the effort in, because I definitely see the benefit of doing that. It's like your relationship with people are better, just all around. Less stress, your body, physical. I don't see a downside to it. So
okay, that's good. So if you don't mind, what I'm gonna do, honestly, what I think would be the right thing to do is just kind of hone in on like the three. I would say, actually, I think it's three major areas of your type that you either have like either contention with or that we've just had a lot of conversations about. If you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think the first major one would be Effie as a savior, but given the Alexithymia, right? I know you touched upon it in kind of that high level overview.
Yeah.
But can you like just break down a little bit? Like, first of all, can you like describe what your Alexithymia is like, and then if you could connect that to OP and your confusion with that?
Yeah. Well, it's how do I even start? It's just a blindness to my own emotions. Like, I know that I have emotions because we have chemicals, and it's a normal human thing. I just don't see them. They happen in me, and I see the physical sensations. I can sense the chemicals. I'll have thoughts, but a lot of times when you get in the fight or flight state, it's hard to like logically think. You just want to get out of that situation. I feel that, sensationally. But overall, my emotions are pretty even keel. I'm not big highs and big lows. I'm pretty even all the time. But having Alexithymia, it makes it difficult to emotionally connect with people, because I don't know what I'm feeling. I'm not really good at figuring out other people's feelings. I think I tell myself I know what people are feeling, but I don't know how accurate that is. It's just, I didn't even understand what people were doing when they were having emotions. Like, I don't save that information anywhere. So like, if you ask me emotional questions, I have no idea. I have to like in the moment come up with an answer that sounds like you would probably accept it. That's what I've done throughout my life. think of an event or, and just make up something. But I'm really putting a lot of effort into it when I do that. Now that I've understood, I have alexithymia and what it is, I'm trying to put more effort into just explaining that and trying to not stress myself out to come up with some BS answer. Because if they brought it up to me again later, I wouldn't remember that, the emotion that I told them or the event or whatever, because it was all bullshit. Right. So it feels like, and now if I try to do that, I feel like I'm being dishonest because I'm not aware of what my emotions are. So it's difficult. So with FE, it's like I am aware of the vibe, which I know that sounds like a woo kind of word, but it's the emotional state of other people around me or groups of people. And I am aware of that. I can sense it. I guess I'm looking and picking up cues. I'm just doing it automatically. I'm not putting any effort into doing it. Mm-hmm. And when other people's vibe is off, I notice that that's affecting my vibe, my whatever, which I can't see, but I can sense it. I can physically feel that I'm off, and that's throwing me off. And I want their vibe to go back to like a neutral state or something because mine is out of whack and it's uncomfortable. So I see that that's happening. I'm guessing that's what FE people are experiencing, but maybe they're not seeing it because they're just feeling the feelings and they want to help other people. And I'm just kind of like, I don't really have the TI reasons to actually do anything in these situations. I don't have masculine DE, so it's like I don't feel much responsibility to move other people's emotional state. Sometimes I will see if I'm in Discord and people are getting a little bit, like an argument is kind of brewing a little bit. I might say something a little humorous and people will say, I see what you did there. You're trying to like even out the vibe or whatever. And I didn't really see that I was doing that sort of thing, but I guess that's what I'm trying to do in those situations is like I'm seeing the vibe is volatile or something and I'm like trying to calm it down.
Right.
But it's not, I'm not seeing it coming from emotions in me. I'm obviously it is. I'm blind to it. So it is there and something's there. I'm just not able to see it. So I think that maybe it's like the FE doesn't seem to have a gravitational pull to it for me like it does for other people. It's like I see it. I'm aware of it. I'm not that moved by it, I think. I don't know. I could be bullshitting here. I don't know. That's kind of my experience, I think. Okay. I'm trying to be honest. I don't know.
I appreciate that. Now what's interesting with this is, and you know my hot take on this, right? Like it's a very unmedical, probably unsophisticated hot take, but I'm like, for me, it's like, because you've told me a lot about this, and I'm like, okay, are you just being more honest with your emotions than most people, right? Because my impression is that I think a lot of people give that first reaction like, oh, how are you feeling? They'll give the first word that they think either people are looking for or what have you. Because like for me, honestly, it's like I think the whole industry of therapy exists because people don't know what their emotions are a lot of the time, right? They say they're angry, but then when you dig underneath it, it's like there's pain and sadness and all this, or there's layers to these things. But I think we're very conditioned to give the first answer. And so I was when you told me about this, I was like, okay, is he just being more honest about, hey, I don't want to give you the first answer, right?
I don't even know what the first answer is. Oh,
okay.
I'm just thinking like, okay, what are they asking? Like, let's say you ask me what's my favorite movie, for example.
Yep.
I'm like, okay. I start thinking about categories of movies, and then which ones do people consider worthy of, saying that's your favorite.
Yep.
And have I seen those? I'm going through all of those things in my head. Like, I don't even know what to say. I know which ones I don't like. I disliked this one and this one.
Mm-hmm.
But if everyone liked it, I'm going to be like, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Because when I think of these different movies, I don't see a feeling in myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Yeah, it's weird.
No, it's not. I don't think it's weird. I think it's for me, especially after that conversation with Uzair, I think you were there.
I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, like, so, that kind of opened my eyes to, oh no, this might be like a more common thing than,
Right.
maybe you're aware of, because like with Uzair, it's like the same thing. Like, it's like, hey, if you ask him what his interests are, he's like psychoanalyzing the crap out of that question.
Yeah.
So, it sounds very,
because I can see how any answer I give is not quite accurate, and there's not really any feeling behind it. Like, I'm looking for the TI reasons to tell you this is the answer, and they aren't there. There's nothing. So it's like I'm checking that. I'm checking everything. I'm like, there's nothing. So I don't know. Yeah, it's weird.
okay, so there's no way to answer the question accurately, so you get stuck.
I realize an answer is necessary here. I want to give the answer, but I'm looking and there's no answer. So it's like, what do you do? It's a kind of a stressful situation where you're like, I'm taking too long. They need an answer.
Okay.
I got to make something up or hurry up and just pick something. I see other people get questions like that, and they take a couple seconds and boom, they have an answer. Like,
yeah,
it's like magic. That's like magic.
I'm definitely one of those people.
Yeah.
So I could definitely, if you're interested, I can describe how at least I experienced that.
I would love to understand.
Like, if someone were to ask me who's my favorite, I don't know, person or whatever, like, for me, and this is going to be somewhat problematic in this answer, because I know, with Alexithymia, you might be like, okay, what do you mean? But let me try and make it as technical as possible.
Yeah.
When someone asks me that question, I immediately or very quickly get a strong, let's say, chemical response, not even emotional, a strong chemical response. And then like 2 or 3 people will come up in my head in association with that chemical response. So I'm like, hey, that must be those two.
Wow.
And I just run with it.
That's so strange. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even relate to that at all. Yeah.
Interesting. And so okay, so there's a few things I'm gonna, because I think there's a good segue here. But before we segue, first, we do have Anna. I think Anna was.
She's
I'm not Anna. I think she's
FENE.
FENE, correct? Okay, so she's on the same decider axis as you. So again, this is kind of helping me see this might be a TIFE thing. We do have a few questions regarding questions/comments regarding the alexithymia.
Yep.
Here's the first one. Are you able to see that?
My pain tolerance, actually, I have a good ST clear example of this. 2 years ago, actually, yesterday, we went roller skating, and I fell and broke my arm. I was skating backwards, which is something I used to do when I was a kid, and I thought, let me see if I can still do this. So I was skating pretty fast. I got going really fast, and I got to the corner where you got to turn, and I was like, I think I'm going too fast to actually make this turn. I need to turn back around. And I went to turn around, and I fell on this arm. I caught myself. It hurt. I felt a little bit embarrassed, like everyone just saw me make a fool of myself, fall on my face. Let me get up, be cool. Like, I'm fine. No, I went over, sat down. I was like, yeah, that hurts pretty bad. Let me just shake it off. I got up, skated some more, like another hour and a half. My daughter's in a wheelchair. I was pushing her around, with both arms, kind of giving this arm a lot of, So get in the car to go home, and I'm like, I think I really messed up my arm. Woke up in the morning. It's like all swollen. I'm like, oh, crap. I go get it x-rayed. It's broken. Had to, deal with that, get therapy, all that. I'm back to normal now, but I would say my pain tolerance is actually quite high.
That sounds intensely high. If you broke your arm.
Kept skating. I even skated backwards after that.
Wow.
So
I'm very not pain tolerant. I'm very viscerally aware of my pain. I can grit it out if I'm in pain, but I definitely feel things. So that's an interesting contrast. So thanks for sharing that. One last thing before we segue, and this is more of a comment or an observation. So you were talking about how the unawareness of the emotions, this is kind of a way of processing this. Yeah. I'm curious to see what your thought process here, given that you're like, hey, you're questioning.
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of issues with awareness of the self, for sure. Yeah. I'm not very self-aware. I'm seeing that a lot. So yeah, that's definitely
Okay, and I think we'll get to that because I mean
Yeah,
we're gonna get to sleep. So, but what I want to segue to now is you mentioned kind of this thought process of when someone gives you a question, especially an emotion based question, you check and you're like, oh, there's no way to accurately answer this. So then my question is, and this is a good segue to TI. So we're going to TI now. How are you assessing the accuracy of something?
Yeah, I never really thought of. I just well, if it's something that's in me that I'm analyzing, I just I don't know. I just bang on it with logic and try to make it make sense. Like try to find holes in it that don't add up. It's like. And then if it's something external, I mean, I would just investigate, find experts that know something about that, and look at both sides, critics of them, and back and forth until I get to the point where I'm like, I think this makes sense to go this way, but I'm not going to like be all in until, more evidence or something like that. But it's got to make sense to me in the end with my TI. It's like, I have to understand it. If other people understand, that's fine. And I can sort of defer to people in certain situations. If I'm not an expert in that and I don't have time to spend it. Okay. The experts, they're fine enough, but I would like to actually understand it for myself.
Interesting. So I do see there's a contrast with us here. So would it be fair to then say that you don't trust people when it comes to their logic? Is there like a lack of trust involved?
I would say it's a skepticism, a healthy skepticism.
Yeah.
It's like I'm willing to start out thinking they're probably fine with their logic, but they might be off, and I want to know for me. Yeah, I guess that's how I put it.
Right. Okay, cool. Now, with your official type, or the Dave and Shan typing,
right?
TI would be the least activated demon for you.
Right.
Have you processed that? Like what, like both in terms of the TI and then also, quite frankly, the identity side? Do you like what's going on there? Do you struggle with that? Go ahead.
No, I was trying to listen to the extra stuff you were saying there. The identity part of it, I guess, would be the big issue that I see. Just that I haven't spent much time like processing that side of it.
Okay.
Processing my thoughts, which would, when we get into sleep, we'll talk about that. But just the identity, I just haven't spent. I didn't even know that was a thing. Like the people did, like process their identity. It's like I was never focused on that. I never knew that was something I needed to spend time on. And now I'm starting to do that, through sleep and stuff. But I honestly don't see TI as a demon because I'm a computer programmer. I'm using my TI all the time. I'm logicking ideas. I've been a computer programmer since 1995. I got my degree in math and computer science. And I've always thought of myself as like a nerd, an NT nerd. So the fact that I'm like NT last, it was kind of a shock to me. But I don't know. I feel like when I hit my 20s, I started like being all in on my TI. I didn't know the word for it back then, but I was all about, logic and studying philosophy and just trying to understand thinking in a critical way on a deep level. And I got into computers and it was like a perfect fit. I loved it. I love thinking about puzzling, how to, get things logically correct, coming back and seeing that there's mistakes and building on that and fixing them. I love my job as a computer programmer. And I know that's an emotional word, but it's like, I see the evidence that I love this thing. I don't know. It's not a feeling. I see that it's obvious that I love this thing because I can spend hours in my head working on code I can, like, I'll get, something written out of, this is a program that we want you to write for us. And I have to translate that. I'm already thinking of, I need to access the database. I need to write out these files. I need these files over here as input. I'm building this whole program structure in my head as I'm reading like English sentences that I'm translating all that. So I don't see my TI as a demon. Obviously the math says it is. So it is, I guess. I do see that I do have freakouts when I imagine that I'm perceiving that someone has said something that's insulting my intelligence. Now, they might not be saying it to actually mean that, but I will see somebody say something, and I'll say, the only reason I would say that is if I were going to insult them, like call them dumb or something, and I can't perceive why they would say that to me unless that's why they're saying it. So I see my TI get triggered there, like, wait, this person's calling me dumb. I need to be offended right now. But now I'm catching myself doing that, and I'm saying, do I actually know? Do I have TI reasons to know that that's what they meant, that that's why they asked it? And I don't. I never do. It's always the case that that person is just asking me a question, and they said it in a way that I wouldn't say, but they probably don't have functions that I have, and they're honestly wanting to know this information, and they asked it in a way that my brain is just translating it as an attack. I have to chill the fuck out in those situations. I can see that it's triggered. So I do see that it is a demon in that sense, because I'm like reacting in a way that I can see is not good. So I guess that answers it, right?
I'd hope so. I am curious before we pivot to the sleep, because I think sleep is going to be like the perfect segue here in this case. But so you mentioned that when people approach you, or when you mentioned that there are things that you feel are attacks on your identity, or perceived attacks on your identity.
Yeah.
Do you, I mean, I'm not trying to give people ammunition out here, but do you mind sharing like a little bit of like what would count as an attack on your identity? And the reason I'm asking this is because in my experience, there's some things that, like don't affect me, and there's some things that do. So I'm wondering if you've seen like
it's just, I guess it's when I think something is so obvious, and of course I know that information. I'm in possession of it right now, and someone says to me, oh, hey, this information that I know that you don't know is how I'm perceiving it, and it's like, why would you assume I don't know that? That seems like only an idiot would not know that information, and now you're telling it to me as if I don't know it. So I'm immediately like, why would you assume I don't know that? That seems like an insult to me. Because only an idiot would not know that. But that's not where it's coming from at all. It's my brain is just telling me this.
Right. So hold on. So my NT is like putting some pieces together. So you're double masculine consume, right?
Yeah.
And your consume is ST.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that's where the fighting energy is coming from? The double masculine ST in you being offended?
I think so. Yeah, that would make sense.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm always perceiving that I'm being attacked, is what I'm saying in these situations. It's like, you're assuming I'm so stupid that I don't know this information when it's obvious. I mean, it's like knowing the alphabet. It's like, that's how obvious it seems to me. Of course I know this information, but the other person doesn't know I know that. Right. Is the problem. And I'm not seeing it. In the moment, I'm like, only an idiot would not know this, and you're treating me like I wouldn't know it. So you're treating me like I'm an idiot, is how my brain is processing that. That's crazy. I need to stop doing that. And I'm putting in all the effort I can imagine, to get over that, because that's a problem. Okay. It's been a problem a long time. I can see it.
Okay, so that's really good. So then in that case, so what I am curious now, because I didn't realize so I do want to go to the sleep first, but I do want to circle back to the double masculine consume just to see what's going on there. And then we can do the compare and contrast because it's like, it sounds like to me, let me just kind of share my hot take before we get there.
Yeah.
To me, it sounds like it's the fighting energy of the double masculine that's leading to such a strong response. It's not just the demon identity. It sounds like it's the double masculine. It's like, oh, I got to fight you now. So, but we'll get there. So now with the sleep, So you mentioned that you were like, oh, I've never heard, like you were like, it never occurred to me that people process their identity. So then I guess I'm curious, when you hear that, what do you think that means? What do you think that means to process your identity?
So we're moving into sleep then? Is that where we're going with this? Yeah. So, I mean, to me, it's like, when I thought I was asleep first, and I realized I wasn't. And then I'm like, okay, what is sleep? And for me, I'm like looking at the functions, okay, NI and TI.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking to other people and trying to listen and, understand what sleep is. And I'm like, for me, I guess it's going to be applying the NI to the TI, like the why of my thoughts. And so I've been going down that road of like, okay, analyzing thoughts that I had, like one I've talked about before is like I had negative thoughts about a person, and I'm trying to analyze like why do I actually think negative things about them. And I went through that whole process of like, okay, what do I think about them? I think this, okay, why do I think that? And then just back and forth through that process and got down to, well, I have a value that people shouldn't do X, and this person does X. So I don't like them because of X, they're doing this thing. And then I got to the point where I'm like, okay, I need to analyze it. Is that an actual value that I should actually keep and not get rid of? Or do I need to change it or modify it? And then I was like, I'm happy keeping it. Other people may not have that value, but that's okay. I have my own values and other people can have theirs. So I'm seeing that. And when I did that, I was just doing it in my head, and that was kind of difficult and kind of wore me out. But now I've actually transitioned to doing that more in like a journal, like doing a lot of writing, and doing that process that way seems a lot easier. It seems effortless almost. I'm just, anytime I have a thought, instead of just holding on to those thoughts and just trying to keep them in my head, I'm like, grab my journal and start writing. And I get to the same place, and it's a lot easier that way for me to put it down on paper.
I see.
So
okay.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying. So that's kind of where I've gotten with that. So
no, so that's good. Now, that example was, I appreciate that example. That example was more so a relation based, right? It was about your relationship with the person.
I thought about it, someone else. Yeah.
Exactly. Do you? I mean, can you like elaborate a little bit more about like your identity though? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
I really am like.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like. Okay. Yeah, I've processed some things about my identity. I can get into one that's really, really personal, and it's gonna be kind of a thing.
Okay.
No, it's cool. It's good.
Okay.
My daughter is disabled. She's in a wheelchair. We found out when she was about 2 years old that she has something called Rett syndrome. There's no cure for it. She's never going to walk. She's never going to speak. She's got, we have to take care of all of her needs forever, her whole life. And so early days, I was like, I don't have the mental tools to do this. What am I going to do? How am I going to do this? I considered leaving. Like, I can't do this. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, I imagined, with my NI, I guess, into the future of me being that person who left. And I was like, I don't want to be that person that left. I need to find it within me somehow to do this. It's a hard thing. I don't want to do it, but it's got to be done. I don't want to be the guy that left and be that piece of shit. So I had to process that I'm a good person because I did that thing. I stayed and I made it work and I figured out how to do it. So I had to process that I did that. That's my identity. I'm a good guy that did this good thing. I didn't take the easy way out, the coward's way. I manned up and did the hard thing. So it took me a long time. I didn't really process that I'm actually a good guy that did that thing. I just did it and then didn't think about it. And then, this is something I had to process. It's like, actually, I need to own that, which I hadn't done. So I see myself in a better light having done that processing. It's a tough thing, but a lot of people we know in the same situation, their daughters, they split up. They can't do it. It's difficult. It's a lot of work, and it's not easy. And mentally, I can see why someone would say, I can't do this. I got to get out. I got to, it's hard.
Wow.
So, yeah. I'm going to pour a drink for myself here.
Absolutely. Feel free to do that. I appreciate you sharing that. And one thing I will say, I can attest to the fact that to me, this is more legitimate sleep because, like, I've heard you tell me this before. So it's a recurring aspect of your identity that you find significant, right? So it's like the human need of significance, and it's that human need of certainty. So you're certain that this makes you a significant person, right? So like, absolutely. And I definitely appreciate that you kind of talked us through that process for sure. I was not expecting you to bring that up at all. So thank you.
Keeping it real.
No, really good. But the aspect that's new to me is you mentioned that, because you told me the story of how you processed the fact that you did that. That was so that's actually the conversation we had when we met in person. I was like, oh, that's really cool. But I didn't know you were processing the fact that you're a good person because you did that. Do you have, like, is this kind of conversation of whether you're a good person or not, is that something that kind of you struggle with, or?
It's something I never focused on. I never thought about it in those terms. I don't know. I just didn't know that was a thing people did. And then I started realizing it when I got into all this self-growth and all that. People are talking about the hero's journey and all that. And I'm like, you know what? I actually did some things that are big deals. And I never really processed it and thought about it and like owned it for real. And so I had to do that. And it's like, you know what? That's actually a really good thing to do. And I definitely see the value in doing that because it gives you a little more courage. Like, you know what? I'm actually kind of a badass in certain ways. And I need to own that because that's an important part of who I am. And if you don't ever really own that, that's kind of a waste because that's good shit, Right. We need that. When we do good shit, own it because that's good. You need that in you because it can help you in all aspects of your life, friendships and relationships and everything. So I don't know. I'm still learning this whole extroverted thing, man. It's like telling people these stories is like me opening up, and I'm not used to doing that. It's like I'm having to learn like when to do it and when to not, and I can't figure that shit out. I'm just kind of like, this is me. These are the big moments in my life that changed me, and I want to get to know good people and share who I am with them. And it's hard to figure out how to do that, right? But I'm trying.
Yeah, no, yeah. Really good. Wow. I think when we get to the contrast, we'll circle back briefly, but I don't do that as much. So we're gonna come back to this shit.
Yeah.
Like, for sure. As I have a hard time with this. So moving to the last point, and then we'll go to the compare and contrast. The double masculine consume, and you kind of insinuated on that. It sounds aggressive as fuck to me. I'm sorry. I was like, oh god, like you're gonna start fights over the ST. I mean, have you started fights over that ST frustration?
What happens is I'll see that my brain is like doing that, what we were just talking about earlier, and I might say some comment that's an attack back. I'm perceiving I'm being attacked. I will attack back verbally. And then I'm done. I'm like, I got to get out of here. I'm not going to do this. I just leave. Go cool off or whatever. Think about what, happened. Try to understand it, which I'm seeing now is like NT. Like I'm puzzling out what just that entire conversation, what happened, what did I perceive, where was I wrong?
Right.
I freaked out, yada, yada. And then come back and like, this is how I'm seeing it. I'll explain to that person. This is how I saw what happened. Correct me on what I'm, wrong on here. And just owning up to the fact that, I see my side of what happened here. This is how I saw what you said. I know that that's not how it was meant. that sort of thing. I don't know.
It's really good. I think the one other aspect of consume, if I'm remembering correctly, the double masculine, it's like when you start consuming, you get pretty intense. Is that right?
It's when I'm in consume mode, I don't want to be interrupted. It's like you want to rage when someone is interrupting you. So I see that happening. And I just have to say, okay, this person needs you for some purpose. I mean, it's not like they're trying to do some, terrible thing to you. You just got to chill out. You can't be upset in those situations. Consume is more important than, loved ones and family and friends and stuff. No, it's not. You got to dial that shit down. You just have to see that it's happening and stop it, Realize how ridiculous it would be to get mad at someone and be mean to them because you're in the middle of consuming something. I mean, there's more important stuff than that. So
it's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's different.
I'm sorry, that was pretty funny.
I was trying to be a little funny there. Sorry.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
No, it's legit though. It's real. I mean,
yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Wow. Man. Okay.
Sorry.
So with that being said, let's go to the compare and contrast. I think you gave a really great, thorough overview of your type. So I'm not going to ask you to do that again necessarily unless you want to, but I think, seeing where we're different may kind of further flesh it out. So I think the first question, let's go to honest question if I can find it. There's actually two questions. If I can find, where'd it go? The hell? I'm freaking out. Okay, here we go. So let's start with this one. So the difference between masculine FI and masculine TI. So you mentioned masculine. Well, no, you mentioned TI. I don't know if you went into the masculinity of it. Can you briefly go into that?
I guess it would be that I'm just not very movable on stuff. I mean, I put effort into not grasping too tightly to ideas that I have, like beliefs or thoughts.
Yep.
That's taking effort because it's not natural. That's something I had to push myself to do. But it's just I will move. It's just I need to be really convinced that something is logically true. So it's a little just a slower process of changing my thoughts, basically. That's how I see it, at least. I don't know.
Okay, cool. And if I had to contrast that, so masculine FI for me, I mean, honestly, Kevin, the way I would describe it is just intensely strong chemical reactions, if that makes sense. Just very immediate, it's like I'm using this motion for a reason. It feels like it's punching out of my body.
Right.
It's like I feel that, right? Positive or negative, right?
Oh, well.
So
I was just about to ask, is that happiness too? Is like that?
It's every emotion is intense.
Oh.
It's either I don't have emotions or they're intense. There's no middle, there's no happy medium for me. That's bullshit. It's like if I like you, I really like you. If I hate you, I want you to die. Metaphorically, I'm not trying to get sued. Metaphorically speaking, you should jump off a cliff for real. That is really the energy. Yeah. Yeah. And I think from an identity standpoint, that'd be an interesting contrast. And this actually kind of goes to the sleep as well, processing identity. I don't do that often. I mean, I'm kind of going through therapy right now, and one of the biggest things there, I'm being I had one session, and immediately they were like, yeah, you don't really give yourself credit for things. That was one of the first things they said.
That's a big deal, yeah.
I was like, okay, I guess, So I would say it's hard. I can't even answer the question. I don't know how.
Yeah.
But what I will say, just process of elimination. My identity is not my thoughts. I know that.
Right.
Even the worst negative, I mean, I have pretty negative thoughts, but even when I'm in that state, I listen. They almost sound like people chattering in my head. Just a bunch of people
Right.
chattering, and like I'm just there, assessing,
Right.
you know.
Wow.
Um,
I would say for me, like my identity is like almost immovable. Like it's my thoughts, it's my truths, values, all that stuff, but mostly thoughts and truths. And it's like monumental things have to happen where I'm like, I realize I'm not who I thought I was, or these beliefs I thought I had, they're not right. And
yeah.
then just everything has to be rebuilt from the ground up.
Yeah. No, so
Yeah.
no, that's really good. I mean, and same for me. Like, so I've actually been going through something this week, and I was telling you about that. Like, I thought so. My identity, if I had to describe my self awareness of my identity, was like, oh yeah, I'm doing my demons okay. Like, that was my assumption. I was like, I'm doing
Right.
them okay. I'm of course, like, there are things I'm ignoring, and I need to improve. But I was like, okay, I'm putting some effort in. But
Right.
this week was like terrible because I was consistently getting feedback from all these different sources that, oh no, you whatever, like, and these are people who, whether they knew OP or not, but like they were like, what I thought I was doing, like I thought I was taking, so sorry, in situations where I thought I was going against my type, so to speak, it turns out I was just doing more of my type, and I was just blind to it.
Oh wow.
So my identity basically collapsed by this weekend.
That's rough.
And I was like, oh my god. And the reaction to it, and I'll just, maybe this will help from an FI standpoint. The reaction to that was it was like an emotional collapse. It wasn't an intellectual thing. It was an emotional, like, I felt like the ground like fell underneath my feet, and like now I'm like what the like what is this?
Right.
So
Wow.
I guess to contrast that, have you ever had an experience where your identity fell out, like where you were like, oh my, like, and can you describe how would you describe that?
Well, I mean, I guess, well, we've talked about this before, so it's going to be old shit for you, but I was raised in this hardcore fundamentalist, religion. I call it a cult a lot of times. And at 21, I stopped believing in it. It's like, I was studying evolution, which we were told is the devil is trying to trick you and it's not real. And I would debate people. I was learning apologetics and trying to convert people to my religion. And people would bring up evolution and I didn't know what it was. And I just had this fake understanding of it, that it was, the devil. It wasn't, so I wasn't able to convince people. So I was like, I need to understand what this evolution is, so that I thought, I was bold. I thought I could go in there, learn it, and understand, oh, this is why it's wrong. Now I understand it. Now I can go out and convert people. And when they talk about evolution, I can shoot it all down. So I took some classes in college and I was learning about evolution for the first time. And I'm sitting in there and I'm coming in at this convinced that I have the one true religion. All the rest are false. They're all worshiping the devil. If mine's not true, none of them are true. So I'm sitting there and I realize this evolution is legit. It's real. And every belief I have, my entire identity just crashed. And it was like, I have to rebuild. I stopped believing instantly. And then I'm like, well, I don't even know if there's a supernatural. I don't know anything. I need to just start from scratch and figure this out. Who am I? Why am I moral? All that stuff.
Right.
So in some ways it was a relief, because I was in this religion who I realized I wasn't living up to their standards. And in my mind, I'm like, all these other people are doing it way better than me. Just not feeling it. I don't know my feelings. So like all these other people are feeling things when they're in church and things, and I'm not feeling anything. So I'm like, I'm not a good, person in this religion. I'm not going to make it to heaven. But so I'm trying and I want to, but so when all this stuff fell, it's like a relief, because it's like, wait a minute, maybe there's not a hell. Maybe I'm actually a good person. And I'm just like, so I just had to rebuild everything from the ground up at that point. So that's one of those big events for me where it's like all my identity is just like, you have to start from scratch.
That is interesting, because, and the reason I'm finding that interesting is because the contrast, I have a similar experience, but it's I'm listening,
coming from a different,
mine is definitely more FI flavored. So
yeah.
for those of you guys that don't know, I actually grew up in the same religion denomination as Kevin. So yeah, we had the same basic starting point, you know, similar experiences, you know, very kind of fundamentalist. I was certain, and you know, or at least I didn't question it. But I don't know how I broke out. No, I actually do remember. It was when I started going to college, and it wasn't actually. It didn't have anything to do with like thinking. It was I started getting exposed to what do you call these things? Like so I went and I went in the honors track when I was in college. So I started getting exposed to all these classical works, right? So like the Iliad, I think there was this other one, and then but my teacher was basically introducing me to like ancient Greece and ancient Rome, and one of my other teachers in junior year was introducing me to like Friedrich Nietzsche and all this other stuff. And for me, it wasn't a matter of my beliefs fell apart. It was my emotions were more drawn to that. Like I remember specifically when I was first exposed to the Iliad, I remember instinctively feeling reverence towards Athena, right? And I was like, and in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, why do I feel this so fast? Whereas when I'm in church, I'm like you said, bored to tears. This feels empty. Why is there a more why am I having a more divine, so to speak, experience with the Iliad than the Bible, even? Right? And that's what led to the distancing and eventually abandonment of that. But that's definitely an FI thing. Like, you know,
that's a good contrast. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Wow. Really good. So now I'm gonna get rid of this on the screen. So continuing on with the contrast, let's go to the sleep animal. Not even the sleep last, that's just the sleep animal. So yours is NT and mine is SF.
Right. Opposites there, yeah.
Exactly. So I honestly, what I'm curious about, since we're both sleep last, is like I guess we'd have to like triangulate off each other.
Right.
I mean, have you seen me do sleep processing with you? And if so, have you seen it be more SF, or can you like talk about that?
Wow. You're gonna ask that in that way. I don't know. I do see sometimes you will say, wait a minute, I need to think about that. You'll like stop like the conversation, like wait. Or I can see you're maybe thinking about what we just talked about. But I don't know. It's hard to see the SF quality of what's going on inside of you. You know, it's just how you present yourself is very, very SF, I think. I would say. I don't know. You're a cool guy. It's like clean cut, you know, nice clothes.
Yeah. So okay, so I do think we should do that like outside perspective and inside perspective. So from the inside, there's a few things going on. I definitely would say I do think my sleep is more SF in the sense of I'm constantly, at least when I'm like aware of it, I guess, I'm constantly aware of whether I like something or not. Or like where my energy level is with something or not. Like, so for example, when we would hang out in person, like I would start checking out and you would comment on that. It's like, Reggie, like, are you okay? Are you still here with us? And it's like, you know, my body would, you know, it's not because you guys like, it wasn't anything against you, but it's like all of a sudden I would be hyper aware of my body's energy, or I would be very aware of the environment. Like, so one thing that ends up that happens to me a lot is if we're in a very beautiful environment, I will check out and zone out and just pay attention to the surroundings, like, and just really enjoy it, like a painting or something like that. And like, I can't talk about that to the person while I'm there. Kind of weird, you know. It's like, you know, I do look a bit checked out, but that is something I do a lot. I do think also from a energy conservation side, I spent a lot of time, especially when I was in college, making systems for SF. Right, I got very obsessed with fashion, very obsessed with what are called wardrobe modules, where basically you want to maximize the efficiency of your wardrobe to where like you could pick up anything and it basically could go with anything else.
Right.
Wow. I was very big on that. I've strayed away from that because, as you know, I've been distracted by the NT or whatever. But I mean, that was definitely something. I do think also I do have like a Tumblr, and that's very much just curation, like just curating aesthetics and quotes and pairing them, and I get very fixated on that. And then finally, I would definitely say from an SF perspective, like whenever I have like an SF experience, I do repeat it. Like, so I'll give you a perfect example. It might sound a little bit NT, but I think within the context this makes sense. So recently, I'm not a video gamer, right? But recently, so there's this community for Super Smash Brothers. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that game. Doesn't matter. Does not matter. But there's this video game that's been out for 2 years, and there's a community behind that. And I follow some of these gamer channels because I like the reactions that they give. Some of them are pretty funny. Right. So recently they released this new. I don't know. Have you ever played Final Fantasy VII at all?
No, but I'm aware of those games.
Okay, you're aware of it. Yeah. So recently they added as a downloadable character the villain of that franchise.
Oh, right.
Super popular.
Right.
Right. So, you know, and then like so they released this trailer. The trailer looks stunning. But like, there's also all these reactions on YouTube that like everyone's like losing their fucking mind. And like, honestly, I've been rewatching those reactions like on repeat. Right.
Right.
And I think that's an SF thing. I don't think it's an NT thing. I think it's an SF of I like the intensity of the emotional reactions. I like the aesthetic of it. And I like that it's a very like, you know, big deal, at least on the internet, because it's like apparently
it's the popularity of it. So when you're watching them, are you experiencing some chemical thing happening from seeing the other person?
I think it's more the other person. Yeah, exactly. Like if I were to watch that by itself, I definitely would have appreciated the aesthetics of it alone, because I think it's a very beautiful trailer.
Right.
And it also connects to a lot of music. Like, so this is part of the SI. It connects to a lot of music from those games. Right. You know, the trailer has one of those iconic songs. So I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. But I think the reaction that really elevates it to, oh, okay, this is something I like.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
So yeah, I can see the SI in there and the FI. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Huh. That's pretty cool.
I do that with a lot of things.
Well.
Yeah. Now.
I'm trying to think if I do any of that myself with the NT side of it. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. So the NT, I don't see you doing that. Like from the outside looking in, you do seem very analytical. Right. You know, like, I mean, it's, you know, even our first impression when we first met, it's like you kind of went straight into, hey, I'm trying to puzzle this out. Like you're very puzzling things out.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Calm down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rein it in a little bit. Yeah, I need to do that. Yeah, recently I learned about this other aspect of sleep that I wasn't really focused on, which was applying the TI logic to the NI patterns that I've already come up with. One of the comments at Facebook, somebody was asking about NT sleep versus ST sleep. And that was a side of sleep that I hadn't really focused on. And when I read that at first, I'm like, wait a minute, that's not sleep. It's the other way around. And because that's what I discovered and I was working on. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh crap, no, that's sleep too. That's NT sleep also. And I'm doing that like all the time, like banging with logic on these, you know, patterns that I've come up with. I do it for my job at work. That's like, I'm doing it all the time. So, I don't know. It's like, it seems odd to me that sleep last, I would be doing so much sleep all the time. I don't know if maybe it's something I discovered and just as a way to, with the social anxiety and stuff, as a way to like avoid the extroversion side of myself. Found this thing that I was good at and liked to do and just kind of got obsessed with that kind of sleep processing. I didn't even think, I mean, that's just like, I'm doing it effortlessly all the time. It's like who I am. I'm in my head and I'm doing that.
Yeah. So
that's where I'm starting to question the sleep last side of it. Cause I'm like, I'm doing this aspect of it. I'm not doing the identity stuff and I'm not doing the, you know, the other stuff that I talked about that I'm figuring out with the journaling and stuff, but I'm doing that more now. I mean, I'm actually putting effort into that and I am seeing the benefit of doing it and it's not that hard because I'm getting something out of it. So I'm like, yeah, I like doing this. But So yeah, NT to me is banging on the ideas and all that. So
All right, good. I would say the last major contrast, and then probably we'll start. We'll see if we need to wrap up, but the last major contrast would be this one's kind of hard. So initially, what I was gonna say is NE versus NI, but it's complicated in the sense of you have double activated SE, and I've double activated NE, so I'm double down on my first function, and you're not. So
right.
at least on paper. So
Right.
you know.
Yeah. Well, I watched when you were talking with Prem and you guys were trying to talk about what NI was. And I was watching that and I had a lot of comments to make about what he was saying about NI. So, and then I actually chatted with Prem in Discord afterwards and we talked about it some. But so I'm open to like talking about the differences or whatever there that I see it for at least how I see NI.
Yeah, I mean, go for it.
I mean, to me, especially with the lead, it's like I want to dip into the SE, like take in SE, just so that I can see what's the NI pattern in it, and then I don't want any more SE. I'm like, okay, that's enough. I figured it out. It's all about figuring out the pattern that's in there for me. So I'm saving internally some SE, and I'm saving these patterns that I've figured out, and they're connected like arrows, both directions. So like if I take in some new SE. I'll see if I can see a pattern in it, or is it similar to something I've already taken in, and I know that pattern, so this one probably has a similar pattern. And I'm always trying to spot the patterns and things and link them up with SE. And I've seen this before. I know this has this pattern in it, and then I check. Oh yeah, okay, I got it. I understand it. And different NI patterns will be connected to the same or different, different things. Multiple patterns can be connected to one SE. That's kind of how I'm seeing. I'm always trying to minimize how many patterns I'm seeing. Like, everything has the same, we're always trying to do that, but I can take in new patterns all the time. I'm not opposed to that. If something has some new pattern, that's interesting. And I would want to know that. So to me, it's all about understanding what I'm seeing by spotting what pattern is in it. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now. And it's like, that's the obsession is I need to understand this. I don't understand it. I need to figure it out.
Right. So mine's kind of hard, especially after this week. I'm like, I want to give an answer that's not full of shit. That's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to give some bullshit answer. What I will say is, based on what I'm experiencing now, and based on what I'm like, my mini self-awareness that I'm trying to wake up here, I do think my NE is constantly trying to save me from the anxiety of the SI. That's how I would describe it at this time. I am terrified it doesn't make sense. I don't fucking get why. It doesn't make sense to me. But I like even the thought of planning something, organizing something, building something, like, building my future or building this relationship, or like, or choosing one option out of like 5. Like, I stress out. Like,
Right.
And so what my NE does is it either distracts me, right, into escapism, right, learning some random shit on the internet that has nothing to do with me, right? Or, for example, or it tries to save me by trying to say, okay, well, kind of like what you were saying, it's like I need to understand why, or I need to understand what this is for, or I need, like, the whole understanding thing I do relate to. I need to get it, right? I need to get it. So that's how I would describe my NE. It's trying to save me from that fear. But in the process, because I'm not actually dealing with the SI directly, or let me rephrase that. To the degree that I don't actually do the actual work of building and organizing, and I'm out here worried about trying to get it first, it just builds up. The anxiety just builds up.
Right.
Would
you have to get your FI on board to do the SE? Is that how that's going to work?
It's part of it. Yeah.
How have you figured out ways to push that?
Well, first you have to understand. First, for me, I have to realize FI is not TE, because I've been lying to myself there as well. I had a conversation with a friend on Friday, and I was describing what I thought was FI. And, I was like, hey, I want to be great, and I want to be this, the best, and I want to be significant, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, whatever. Like, but then it started slipping out. Oh, I want to be the next Julius Caesar or Alexander the Great or all these other people. And I was like, fuck, that's definitely TE. So I caught myself in the act finally. So for me to get my FI on board, I have to first acknowledge that it's not a matter of trying to be the best on a roster. Like, it's not a competition. FI is not a competitive thing, right? At least for me, I think FI is very much okay. It's an isolated unit almost, right? It's like, okay, like, how people say compare yourself against yourself, or don't worry about other people. Like, that's what FI is going to be more about. So the biggest mantra that I've been telling myself, and I did get this from Gary Vee, so it is from another person, but it's like, stop judging yourself, right? You're not moving forward because you're judging yourself too hard. Like, just relax, find what you actually enjoy or what you find meaningful, and just go with that, right? And don't worry about how that looks, right? So that's that, and I think that embracing that has been a little bit more helpful to getting my FI on board legitimately.
Yeah, that's good. Wow.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Okay, so really, really good.
You want to look at some of the comments, or?
I mean, a lot of the comments were, I lost the context for a lot of them, unfortunately. Okay. But so I guess I think we did really good. And I think, you kind of incorporated all, like, the last kind of bracket into the conversation. So, wrapping up here, is there any final thoughts or anything that you think would be worth sharing or worth talking about or anything like that?
No, I think we covered most of the stuff. This was, thanks for having me on. It was great chatting with you and stuff. I enjoyed it every time. Yeah.
Awesome. Really appreciate
it. And I appreciate your honesty with me and stuff. You always give me the hard truths, so that's good.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for, I guess, on this planet. Yeah, and I really appreciate you opening up as well. There was a lot of stuff in here that
yeah, sure.
So moving forward here, are you still? I did put your YouTube link in the description. Yeah. Are you still working on that? Or?
I am. Yeah, I have some chats with some people that are coming up soon.
Okay, cool.
The end of the month, and then in January also. So yeah, should be fun. Okay. I'm not doing a ton of the ones where I'm just talking to the camera. I did a few of those early on, talking about my journey, understanding myself. I'm not doing a bunch of those anymore. What happens is I end up doing them for myself. And then I'm like, I don't need to post this. I've sort of processed what I wanted to process by doing, like, recording it. So,
right.
I probably do more of the discussions with, a group of people on the topic or whatever. So,
all right, really, yeah, awesome, yeah. So definitely looking forward to that. To that. So it's in the description. And again, if you guys stuck around for this long, or some of you, I know some of you guys just skip to the end. So if you're seeing this. And let's say you have no idea what OP is and you're just confused as hell, there are some links in the description to kind of help you out. I made sure to include those. So, Kevin, really appreciate it. So I just want to wrap up. Thank you guys in the live chat.
Thanks, everyone.
There's a lot of people here that joined, so really appreciate seeing you guys. One announcement on my end. So I did 10 episodes, which is a milestone for me personally, double digits, yay. But what I want to do is, before I continue doing interviews / episodes, I'm going to do a Q&A / live sleep processing of the first 10 episodes, kind of just share, kind of revisit, what I was learning, what are the big kind of takeaways, just extract a little bit more value. So I will be announcing when that's going to be. So if you guys are interested, I'm going to live stream that as well. So feel free to join. And, if you want to harass me with questions, feel free, so that's kind of the big announcement. That's going to be sometime this week. Other than that, if you did like this, or if you didn't like it, that's fine. Thumbs up, thumbs down, leave a comment. I do look at all the comments. And if you do like conversations like these and want to kind of see more, feel free to subscribe, just so you can get the notification. There's a lot of noise out there. So if this is something that's meaningful to you, I mean, I definitely kind of keep yourself subscribed so you can see when the next one comes out. So other than that, again, Kevin, really appreciate you joining. And I will see you all on the next one. Take care, everybody.
See you guys.